we start. Ah, is it streaming?
Okay, I'm going to show you a video from September. It's like the release video or the launch video of Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign. And later on, I'm gonna tell you like how far we've progressed from there. What are the key differences? Sorry. Take. Come on. Okay. That's it. To give you like an idea of development speed and stuff like that. So, wait a second. So when I pause again, it's like the title remains up there. Basically. Under this title, you can see bars there. These are like hit points of the ship, and this build, like when you select the weapon to shoot an enemy, then the weapon cursor changes accordingly, so that you can target individual modules on board the ship. Like when you hover the cursor over a module, the cursor changes. Or you can just shoot at the hull. So that's what we had. Now, about 4 months have passed, and we have mainly worked to update the combat mechanics, and there are like 2 significant changes that we've been working on. So first of all, we did so that, like originally, when enemy shot you, you lost hit points, and you could only repair the damage in special stations. Now, when the enemy shoots you, your ship gets a scar. We call them damage tokens. And if you read the scar says like -2 hit points, and you lose also -2 hit points from there. And when you can actually select the crew and send it to repair the scar, so that you get rid of the scar here and you get your hit points back. So now ship damage can also be repaired by the crew, not only in the stations. And these damage tokens which appear on the ship, they can sometimes explode, or you need to, or they are leaking something. So we basically improved the single value of hit point. We made it into a real world object, like a lost hit point, a scar on the ship. So that was one big improvement we've been working on, and it's basically ready. And the second thing is, we found out that the way that the player targets modules on board the ship doesn't work. Like it is not intuitive enough, the version we had. So what we did is we instead of targeting the individual modules, we changed the attack cursor so that you're targeting an area on the ship, either that area or that or that or whatever area. And the area is where your shot lands, your targeted area. So now each shot is like a little dice throw. Will I hit or will I miss? It's like much more intuitive now. And you can combine these shot landing areas, like for example different weapons. If they all shoot this area, then it's bound to happen that at least like one bullet will hit that attack module and the enemy loses capability to shoot back. So this is basically what we've been working on, and it's been like 4 months almost, or 3 months. And since the game has so many complex interrelated elements, that's the time it takes. And when this is done, hopefully it will get done like completely this year, then we will start to focus on what happens if these little guys from the enemy ship like the enemy ships, they also have crew inside of them now, and January we will start working on what happens is when the enemy ship crew gets inside your ship and they start to fight and shoot each other. So and that's like the last major feature that the game needs to have before we can freeze feature development and concentrate on content. And my estimate is that it will take January, February, max 2 months maybe to finish that internal combat. Our programmer says it's like building a tiny red alert inside of the ship, like a tiny RTS game. So it's not easy. Any questions?
When is ready? When it is ready?
It seems to be a really complex like gameplay mechanic. While you have to like manage so many things. So you have to like small RTS game inside the ship plus the outside battle plus managing maybe your resources and stuff and then the story as well in addition. Can't it become overwhelming for a player to play it?
Usually you don't have to do all those things you mentioned together. Usually in the battle you focus on destroying the enemy ship and sometimes fighting fires or repairing. Outside of battle you focus on resources and story, and maybe only once in every 5 or even more battles it happens that the enemy crew gets inside of your ship. So it's not everything all the time, but these are like segmented into different parts of the game. Yes?
I have a similar question. So you had the system of scars and you could repair the different scars. Wouldn't it suffice if you could just repair the ship in general? Just assign the crew member to a wall and it starts repairing random wall.
Yes, that was like one option, but we estimated that it isn't too difficult to do the whole scar system. Plus, what happens if the scar is in our system, when the scar is within the wall, you just can't repair it. It will have to be repaired inside the station, like a repair station. So yeah, good, like a valid point, but it luckily just wasn't too costly to develop that scar system. It was minor development time compared to the rest of the battle.
Yeah, but maybe the question was, will it give something in addition to the players, or will it make it more complex? The benefit.
It does. It basically what it does. It actually makes the game more intuitive to the player, because when you have hit points out there and the ship here, and you think, okay, I would like to repair my ship. Then where do I start? There are no indications of where should I click or do. But if there's like if somebody shot and there's like big hole with molten edges over here, then your first idea is to hover it. Then you do that, you see, oh, it's a damage token. It says, the hover text says, this damage takes 60 metal to repair in 20 seconds. Then you know, oh, okay, I just pick the crew and send to repair it. So it's actually quite intuitive. Yeah. Any other questions or ideas or anything?
The last big feature inside combat will be that how many play hours, gameplay hours without.
Oh, it is really hard to estimate. Basically, what we have planned is that our game should satisfy the 40 or 40 play hour limit. So we think that if you're a very good player and the whole game takes like 10 hours from start to finish, then given that at the start you're just a beginner player, probably it might take 40 hours. So we hope it either helps us reach the 40-hour limit or go above that, basically. Actual gameplay, it actually doesn't we are not using it to improve gameplay time, but the main reason is to add variety to the combat. If it was only that, ships fighting each other, then our game would lose to the number one comparison, FTL. Everybody's comparing it to FTL, and if it has something fun that FTL doesn't have, people will be complaining. So it's basically a necessity, the internal combat. But if it was only internal combat, then at some point it would get boring, or you would get satisfied from shooting. It's like another dimension to the combat. And since it happens rarely, basically the internal combat is planned to be like the max adrenaline moment of the game. When you play, most of the time your ship is flying around in a star system. Let me show a screen. Okay, so this is where it happens most of the time. And this is sort of like, default neutral setting. Every time I approach a point of interest, I basically, psychologically, it's like approaching a loot box. I'm approaching and I'm waiting for something positive to surprise me from that point. So this is like what drives engagement here, like waiting for the next gift to open, and managing it all. And this is like the default setting. Now, every now and then, from here I actually get to the gift. So the default setting is waiting for the next gift and open it, basically, and then making some fun choices and experiencing narrative. But in general, the universe here, one level has, on average, about 12 to 15 such star systems, and per every 3 or 4 star system or so, there's this battle between ships. So this is like the most chill environment. This is like most of the time, and sometimes you get a surprise, and sometimes you get a fight. And fight is not like a positive emotion surprise, but it's like an adrenaline. Somebody is threatening you, and suddenly you feel motivated to play well, to optimize, and that's what you want to feel. So, and when the fight happens, it's your ship versus their ship. It's not like, not everything is lost. You're still in quite control. But once in every 5 battles, or maybe in every 10 battles, it happens so that the enemy might not have better weapons, but they just send a swarm of boarders into your ship, and now you have to worry, like, will your guys be killed inside the ship? And it's like a next level challenge. It's like the peak point of adrenaline for all players. Like, it's not that somebody's attacking you, but somebody's going like inside of you and attacking your little guys inside. It's like super unpleasant, and that's why it doesn't happen so often. We only try to do so that every 5th enemy fleet or so will try to board you, maybe even less often. And all this resource management, the game difficulty is sort of like designed so that in the end you won't die because of running out of some kind of resource, but you almost always die inside of the battle. You know, suitable end to a noble, bold adventurer who's not afraid to die. So that's how we plan to make sure that it doesn't sort of like get boring too early, where we're like cycling different levels of challenges. Any other questions?
Okay, small question. Can you board enemy ships?
At the moment, we plan. We're not guaranteeing it. At the moment, it's all connected with taking over enemy ships and having them for yourselves. If we see that we have enough time to add another mechanic so that you can board enemy ships as well, we'll do it. And then it means that you can play with any possible ship in the game, any ship in the game. Currently, it seems that we probably cannot do it for launch, and maybe we can do a boarding DLC later on. It sounds like if you first of all, if you could play only with like 4 or 5 or 10 ships, and suddenly all of your ships, all of the game ships are at your potentially reachable. Sounds like a good like expansion or DLC that we could add later on. If no further questions, then that's it.
How much time would you have to develop this game?
Well, from my point of view, at least as much time as I stay alive. We've spent over 3 years on developing this, and there is no turning back.
Yeah, but how much do you have left, Simon?
Well, the planned launch is summer 2018. You'll probably have your own opinion about estimates of developers.
Yeah, of course, but what like techniques or tools do you use to like guarantee that you will be able to deliver at this point, or at least make it more likely to be able to deliver?
What do you mean by tools or techniques?
Methods of like managing your scope and managing your tasks and motivating yourself.
Well, managing our scope at current weight, it's actually quite easy. We have to finish the internal combat stuff, finish the ship combat stuff, add the internal combat stuff, and add a bit of smaller campaign-related features. And this is basically almost necessary to do. I mean, these three things are necessary to do, and we will do them irrelevant of circumstances. If we don't have money and I don't know, the office is in danger of running out of rent money, then we'll do some subcontracts and get some more funds and then continue from there.
Okay, other questions?
I'm asking, to be honest, is thinking, so how does, like you said that those things are currently necessary for launch, how does your current list of necessary things for launch differ from the list you probably had 2 years ago?
Well, it's more precise. Everything that was there before was like more abstract, and that some of the features were untested. Now, bad features have been taken out or replaced. For example, the whole combat thing. before there was this this design document of like how the combat should look like, and it looked like the one in Indiegogo. After we did it, then we decided that the combat is like the least fun element in the Indiegogo build, and we knew that we have to add the big feature of crew combat, but we can take at least one feature from the existing ones and make it really much better, and that was the ship versus ship combat. The further along we are in the development process, the more the less unknown there is, the more clear it is how much doing something takes time and so forth. So everything is getting like more and more precise. I don't know if that was like a sufficient answer. I'll show you when we have new stuff coming out, and it's like some.
But how are you spread the tasks between your team? And how are people like doing what they like from and picking them from a big pool, or are you like having some meetings and distributing tasks there? Or?
Well, at this point in time, we are very far in the development. So. And our bottleneck is basically programming. So we just we know our priorities, and then we work on a priority until it's not a priority anymore. Usually we are all aware of what are the big priorities, which I just shared with you guys. Like when a new week starts, we usually agree that okay, like programming-wise, these things are gonna get better, and graphics are basically. Most of the graphics are done, so the graphic artists are like slowly adding content. I can just say that okay, now we need more pictures about finding junk in space, and one of the artists starts to draw junk in space. If you elaborate your question, I can elaborate my answer.
But do you have a concrete list of things you have to do in order to finish the project? And have you like written it down?
Oh yes, tens of times. And it's of course always being updated in our heads. But at this point, it's not like since we know that we are not. Basically dumping the project, since we know that we're going to stick it to the end. The total amount of all stuffs necessary is sort of like less important than what we're working on now. Or I guess the big answer is yes. We know this big list of things we want to do. But we don't sort of like we don't have these hard milestones or things or anything like that. Most of the time it's useful for us to work on which we know is priority right now, and that's it. If we spend more time on planning, we're already wasting time, like team time. I don't know if that still is your answer.
Okay, yeah. I kind of understand.
We've used like several task tracking tools, like task management tools. I think we still have several in use. But in the end, the most practical for us is sticky notes. Okay. that's it.
So, who is next? You want to go? Okay. Sure.
Sorry.
Mis sa rääkida tahad siis?
sa alusta, siis ma vaatan, kui
Okei.
ma räägin, ma ei tea.
Since the last time we presented something here back in October, I think, to be honest, we haven't added much gameplay, which should actually be the main goal, work on gameplay very much fast and iterate. But as the game progressed, at start we had kind of an idea where it was going and tried to get some decent performance out of it. But as we figured out what the end game actually will be, we understood that okay, there are some initial choices that were made that are not perfect. So we pretty much rewrote everything. Is the short explanation. But what we got out of it was quite good performance improvement. Some reason my computer decided that since we're on battery at the moment, then 30 frames is going to be the limit. So last time when we talked, okay, we are making the game pretty fast and it's on mobile, so you can get hundreds of enemies running, and we had a level with 300 enemies, and some of them were dead, and okay, the game appeared to be running somehow, but well, you could see some hiccups and stuff. So yeah, so we rewrote everything. We got rid of physics completely. Last time we used 2D physics in place of 3D physics, and that helped, but drawing fastest thing to do something on computers, or spending least amount of time on doing something on computer, is if you just don't do it. So we got rid of the physics, and 2 FPS isn't correct, so it will it should update. But anyway, we have up to on computer up to 6. Well, this obviously isn't 2 FPS. The FPS counter took all the time that the game was minimized, and now it thinks it doesn't have any frames. But up to 6,000 enemies on PC, it doesn't drop below 60 frames, and on mobile, I think it's about 2,000, 2,500 that the game runs on 60 FPS. So I'm pretty happy about that. Then what else we added? For last couple of days, we decided that okay, we should come here and present something. So we quickly started adding gameplay stuff as well. So we have dragons. Oh no, okay. So we added a dragon. The model was actually there, but oh yeah, everything freezes and it so that part of the code is pretty much placeholder. So, but yeah, it's killing stuff off very fast now, so it will get much faster. We still have we had to re-implement all the old traps as well. So throwing enemies around and spike traps and.
Can you restart the level?
Oh no, it went to 60.
Yeah.
No.
It's just.
Okay.
Yeah, so it will be more.
Okay. So yeah, other thing that's done is that we have map loading. So we rewrote like the whole system, how maps are created and how they're loaded. So now it's all like in a single data file and can load them very nicely and fast. Also level editing, oh yeah, that's another crap we did. Like there's a disk that comes out of the wall and it spins around and kills stuff. Yeah, there's a bug, but don't worry about it. Some of them survive. Oh yeah, so level editing. So last time we like created levels by creating a PNP image in Paint and then like setting colors and then loaded the image and then generated map from it. So I mean it worked, but it was very inconvenient. So now we have this level editing scene, so we can start it up and like do some editing here and close it. This one, yeah. So when I rerun it, then everything that I changed will remain in this level, and I can just like select some other kind of level for editing and run this scene. And yeah, I think that's a blank level or no, something like yeah. So okay, something is strange. Something is very odd. Okay, but it generally works pretty well. Oh, and yeah, with the level adding, I also was playing around with another system. Like, I want the game to run very fast, but I also don't want the player to be waiting at any time. So if I click start, you can maybe see like the background here, or the scene list of Unity. So whenever I start the game, I open the map scene like for selecting levels, but immediately there's like level with all its assets asynchronously being loaded in the background. So if I find, or if the final player wants to go into the level, it's immediately available, and like if they go back to the map, it will clean up on background and load another level, like get everything ready to go again. So basically, the player shouldn't ever see any loading times. Yeah, I mean, so we did some fun stuff, but not much gameplay.
Yeah, we did most of the technical parts here, as you can see, and in the current state, the game is pretty much a nice tech demo. So we want to make this three-dimensional tower defense game working on mobile devices, and have a feature where you can really make a lot of little tiny three-dimensional characters, and everything runs very smooth. And yeah, that's why Margus had to refactor the whole gameplay logic, because it turned out that even though we thought that if we were just using some colliders and very minimal amount of physics, then it actually it could speed up our like game speed. It turned out it was false. Physics isn't truly well optimized, and making everything from scratch was much faster. Other thing is that you can we have also optimized the graphics a little bit, so it is truly 2,000 mobs in mobile devices. Actually, it is quite impressive for a three-dimensional game at most. And if you show the patches, you can see that actually it does only 40 patches per all these characters and all this stuff we can see right now, and it doesn't like grow exponentially. It's pretty much, as you can see, he deleted a lot of characters, and the patches are pretty much the same. So, previous times the number of patches was pretty much the number of characters that were being thrown, and right now all the characters are also GPU instanced, so everything is sent to the GPU once and then simply thrown as much as necessary. And yeah, there are definitely some areas where we need to think things around a little bit more. As you can see, the dragon is animated. Dragon has this rigid body animation while he is attacking, and actually Markus has missed to change the material. You can see that once the animation is over, the dragon like freezes. So it's actually just one missing feature. The dragon also has the idle animation that should be like played all over the character always, and it should move like a little bit while it's not showing the rigid body animation as well.
I think it's moving. It's just very like small
yeah,
animation.
I don't know why this happened, but overall we want to put some emphasis on animations as well. So, for example, if you compare this game with a very popular tower defense game called Kingdom Rush, then you can see that what makes the Kingdom Rush so good is that they have animated everything. Everything is moving a little bit, and it gives a really nice feel to this game with some very simplistic animations. And yeah, at the end we would like to have impressive amount of characters, modifiable dungeons like in Dungeon Keeper, and also a really cool looking traps that are all working, interacting each other, and making this a little bit different from regular tower defense games.
I have a question. So, what is your schedule? Is technical part over? Are you going to start with gameplay now?
There's some very important technical parts missing, like integrating with store platforms and actually managing the persistent data. So
That's
That-
easier.
those have to be.
That won't take time. Easy save? Have you heard it?
Yeah, we definitely want to reach the point where we can say that now we can put our emphasis on adding more stuff to the game. And in graphical wise, there are actually, you can show the Blender file for a second as well, and show let us show what else is actually
You can
in
just open this.
planning. We are planning to add we need to like configure each of the traps, and it takes a little bit of time. So as you can see, there are different types of traps that are all working a little bit differently, and it should be like animated somehow, and etc. So there are some pair traps, also some characters waiting to be animated too. And yeah, I also had a plant trap that was okay, plant. Oh yeah.
It's animating when I move the camera.
Yeah, and yeah, the trick is that all the animations, they are like shader animations, and they are instance shaders. So so every object can be like patched up into or instanced up into a similar. So they should eventually run really fast, even on lowest end of mobile devices. That's something you might have not seen much. Most of the tower defense games on mobile, they aren't using three-dimensional graphics because it's really hard to do well and to do it in such a way that it's really running on mobile devices, because it's just It needs some clever patching and instancing to make it really work. Because well, sprites are all patched by default, but in other mazes need to be manually instanced in GPU.
About making your own dungeon. How are the controls? Because on mobile screen, precision, you can't have precision really well. Plus, if combat will get hectic.
It's like
Currently you are doing with mouse, right? But if combat gets hectic and you have like big amount of menus, you can't really. It's not really enjoyable.
the gameplay is the player will always have only 6 traps they have to choose before the level, so that's all the input they usually have, like scrolling. And on mobile screens, on screen those buttons are actually way bigger, so it should be fine, hopefully. That's also another fun thing. Like I tried to move a lot of things into data, and just like deciding what should appear in this building menu is just this single data object that has all kinds of tiles, and whenever I want to add like new buildable tile to the game, I can just like take any of these. Like this is a ballista that actually we didn't show it, so I can just add this ballista, like let's say instead of the spike traps, and if I play the game now, then I should be able to build ballistas as well.
Yeah, but in gameplay wise, we have tried to design it around one touch mechanic. So you touch in one place to select the square. So you can also zoom in and out. So it shouldn't be like too hard to touch on those squares. And as you can see, the camera angle is also laid in such a way that you can like pinpoint those tiles. So then the second touch to select whatever like trap you want. And then you can touch again in order to modify it, to rotate it, delete it, or do something else with this trap. So yeah, we definitely are focusing on making it comfortable on mobile devices. And the menu, as you could see, was also made in such a way that was quite mobile friendly, and you can zoom in and have those levels you can progress through. So that's also why we needed the map editor so we would be able to really fastly put together a lot of maps with pre-made tiles and to make our own life a little bit easier.
Will be there lots of it, splashes. Not really. We want to make it like friendly, maybe in a cartoon style, some way. Maybe add some other buffs and features that doesn't look bloody. However, me and Margus, we would actually like to give something for Dungeon Keepers fans as well. So for those hardcore fans, to make such levels that you can play a little bit longer time, build your own like bigger dungeons and test out your strategies. Maybe Margus can tell about those levels more.
Well, we'll talk about gameplay when we have gameplay, I'd say.
Okay. We are calling them some survival levels. So we want to really like appeal to those who were disappointed in Dungeon Keeper Mobile Edition.
Those levels. Okay.
So we want to provide something for some real players who are missing some games like Orcs Must Die and Dungeon Keeper on mobile.
Can you comment on the background loading of assets and did the unities like simply type thingy there all the
Unity has Unity has features for it. It has level loading on. I think there's some async load on background, and then you can register on their delegates when it's ready. So you just have to manage what you want to load on background when you want to start it, and like where so you would later be able to access what's loaded, and just have to manage when and what to load, and Unity can do it. So you just have to like package things you want up into a level. So yeah, we're using those levels more as asset packages or feature packages or whatever. So currently we have like 3 levels loaded at the same time, but some other menus will also sit in their own scenes. So and most of audio will probably sit in its own scene. So it's a different approach, so that we're not using these scenes as levels. We have our own level files, and these scenes are more like feature packages that we want to load at the same time or unload. So is this it, or
Do you have any other questions?
When is the release date?
3rd of May
I don't know. Wrote it down.
2020.
Now it's recorded on YouTube, so I'm turning back.
Okay.
Do you need any help? Or you got everything here? Everybody needs.
We will need some 2D graphics at some point, probably.
Yeah.
Some buttons and stuff.
Yeah, buttons and
Logo.
very nice looking map screens and all kinds of.
We want to push those features as far as possible, so we're going to start fine-tuning our maps while we're still editing the features and trying to make things working. So until then we are mainly concerned on the 3D graphics and the level graphics, and then on the last stage we will probably ask some of our better concept artists and join our forces to create and paint and draw some nice mobile UI graphics here as well.
Very nice looking graphics.
Okay, thanks. Okay, and you can try it on mobile phone as well if somebody wants to.
So,
I don't have an APK app, but
So this is the most awesome game you will ever play. Most awesome platformer game. It's in 3D. That's one more D awesome than the rest. This is work in progress, the menu. Okay. So what we have added since the last time you saw it, you probably didn't because it was so long time ago. But obviously we have smoke, as you saw. We have changed the gameplay mechanics a little bit to make it first of all more diverse in level design and also in gameplay. Now you can double jump in this space, and you have this booster, so the longer you hold down the button, the higher the character will go. So you can like make some specific hole like where the character can fly through, and then you can adjust the height with the buttons. And in the other space, this is more of a classical way of jumping, I guess. Here you don't have to hold down the button and it jumps only once. So this is the biggest gameplay change, but also the visuals. We started to implement the backgrounds, different backgrounds and stuff, but that's also work in progress a bit. Before it was just blank and grey and stuff, but now it's a little bit better. Yeah, but the rest of the stuff is pretty much the same. You can still switch spaces to advance. Also, the sounds are coming soon.
What sounds?
Like the jumping sound, for example, this bass has no sound currently. And also this sound, I guess it could be a bit better. And coming up, there are different types of platforms, I guess, and enemies. For example, smaller robot-like enemy that walks around on hips or just on the ground. And that's also under discussion, but it will probably explode when it touches you. Then certain areas that are like force fields that will move you in certain directions. It's kind of like a trap, but I guess you can also use it to advance in certain levels. Then there was one idea about platforms that like fall off. They get destroyed. So, for example, you can make levels that have multiple ways to reach the finish. So, if you jump on a certain platform, it will fall off, and when you die, then you can't get to the finish by that way, but you have to find another way, for example. And yeah, that's about it. Some more enemies and some more platforms, and also the whole visual thing will also change somewhat. But the idea is that there are like several different planes, for example, textures to show the parallax effect. So it would be more interesting. But this one will probably be pretty much as minimalistic as it currently. Also, there's a missing texture for this thing.
That is cool. No, keep it as an extra secret.
Yes.
Can you make like the current time displayed in binary at this moment?
Sure, yeah. I'm not sure how helpful it will be, but
just
Okay, that would be crazy.
yeah, then later we have to translate it, maybe some more. Yes.
No, just in backspace. No backspace.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
global texture space you have binary.
Yeah, but it would cause how it is in GUI issues, or a player doesn't understand why when we switch spaces, time itself will change another. We might not know that it is a binary time.
It seems cool, so he doesn't have to understand it. It just is
Okay.
cool.
Fair enough. Different content, but
Yep. Also, we have a menu now.
yeah,
It's kind of working. Even you can select levels and stuff. I wonder if I will die. So yeah, we have also two kinds of obstacles, I guess. The red one will kill you and the blue one won't. Also, there are if the enemy is red or anything really is red, it will kill you, and If not, then it won't kill you. That way, the player should be very clear, like if something will kill you and something will. But yeah, also the Ludum Guild, there is still the awesome music.
Wait, what do you mean by Ludum Guild?
Just this level was just for the Ludum Dare competition, basically.
And you didn't play it? Oh, damn it.
Last time.
Last time.
The time before that.
Yes. And the printed this time Eric didn't tell me that.
Yeah, because we didn't have anything to show. But now we do.
Okay, fair enough. So next global games we have
We need a new one on the end of the January.
Yeah.
and that
GG.
in virtual reality, please.
Of course.
When is the global game jam?
January.
January.
26 to 8.
Yeah, it will be ready when it's ready. So we prefer quality over quantity. Any questions?
Will be the this movement will be the thruster. Will be the some kind of bar for using the thruster. Will be empty. No.
Yeah, that's a possibility, but I mean it's such a short thrust. So like if you do it a couple of times, then you can probably already like intuitively guess how long it will take.
No, you have like battery power, how many times you can thrust over the level.
Yeah, that kind of indicator.
Making it even more harder, you know.
Yes.
Because why not?
Yes.
You must use wisely.
Yeah, you can thrust only like 5 times.
Yeah, maybe, and you can like some pickups, maybe you can recharge it or something.
Actually, you already have some sounds for this thruster that is changing, and you can also maybe tweak it a little bit more so the player can like learn to know the thrust amount based on the sound. So, for example, they have used it a lot in the Overwatch game, where all the time-based effects are like have very distinct changing sounds. So you can pretty much just tell by the time how much the effect will last, or how much health to still need to charge before you do that.
Yeah, that's also what I it's like this one I think doesn't change, but the steps change a little bit. Steps. Also, we have a story now, but I won't spoil it.
Who wrote it?
Right on.
Okay.
Well, other good idea, if you don't usually by adding some arbitrary bars on top of your character or something is quite bad game design.
Yeah.
Instead, in case of like robot, you can use your robot's like glowing parts to show something about your health or your some like thruster amount by how big the like glowing section on your character is or how bright. So
yeah, making some of the lights interactive is also planned because like we haven't like polished the game at all yet. So when we have some of the levels and all of the traps and platforms done, then we can like look at smaller things like blinking lights and maybe screen shake or something.
Maybe some fun elements.
What do you mean? It's already fun. Can't you see? There are lights.
More lasers.
Yeah, maybe a little two red lasers on the robot.
It's a suicide funny trick.
Because it's a spider, couldn't it like climb on the wall?
Now it's a very clumsy spider.
And it's not a spider, the one that has only like 4 legs.
Yes, there's other things.
So, ah, ah. Now it's late game, higher gravity could change and so on. Oh, you have so many possibilities.
Yes, possibilities endless, but we will settle with this.
Will the character have a ball mode, like just
Like rolling.
putting the legs in
Okay.
and becoming a ball?
That's a nice idea, but that would probably mean changing also the whole level design so it can roll or do something cool. And also we have already Sonic, so. Awesome.
So, I've had a game idea for a while now, but I've been working on it for the last week, I think, so it's not much. The main idea was to have the player make decisions during the game, if to collect resources, build units, or, well, upgrade or something. The gameplay looks like this, something. So it's a tug of war. Resource gathering is something like Fruit Ninja, I think. So every time you move over it, you get 1 gem. And to build units, you just hover a mouse over a thing, so it sends a unit out. Right now it's just I play for both sides. So I want to make a hectic game, so player needs to be fast with collecting resources and also think about what they want to build. Units. It's a very rough idea.
So it could be like endless action cookie maker. So, okay, and you don't click, you just drag your mouse around, something happens also. But you have to make choices where to drag the mouse.
Yeah.
What's the winning condition?
Well, I was thinking something about like if anyone knows the game Age of War, a Flash game. Yeah, you know. So it's just both sides send units, like this type of tug of war game, and if one side overwhelms the other and destroys the, in this case the castle door, the other side wins.
This is for mobile.
Not initially, but I see that it can be adapted for it, but it's not the goal. It's actually, I'm fairly new to Unity, so it's mainly for learning. But I think it could be adapted to a real game. A bit more units, and something.
More upgrades maybe, or kind of choices.
Or what?
Upgrades.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. That
No,
was
it was
bad.
intended. It was spawning animation.
If it's intended for mobile devices, then it. No, I understand it isn't, but it looks like I would like to play it on mobile device. Then maybe splitting your small screen into half isn't like the best thing to do. And maybe you can.
Depends if you can like scale it down and play it on landscape and zoom it out.
Or maybe on portrait, because in mobile you want to play portrait, but that's.
Well, it depends on the game.
Yeah, it depends on the game, but maybe if you think cleverly, maybe you can somehow incorporate the little dragging area to your like battlefields. So maybe you have something that's blinking around your battlefield, and you're not just having some separate area where you're moving around your mouse, but you actually have to like move it around in your battlefield. I don't know. Maybe you can think creatively. Why would you do that? Maybe some trees are growing there, and you have to like chop those trees very fast, quickly, or something. So you simply not to like have this dedicated area where your whole concentration will be this little box, and everything else is like a secondary thing.
The art doesn't show it, but it's. I was thinking about making this like a mine or something, so a theme for it.
Okay.
The area would be a mine, so you gather jewels from there.
Question, so it looks like a two-player game.
Yes.
How do you collect gems there? How do you
Well,
play it with two mice?
Who is quicker?
Perhaps.
Yeah.
And you realize only one wins.
So, as I'm doing things mostly to learn Unity, I was thinking about learning the basic networking. The player has very few interactions here. They both have this field and building units, and that's it. So it wouldn't be that difficult, I was thinking. Well, at least the tutorials weren't that complicated, I think. So maybe something.
So
But
one player would only see like the role buttons.
yeah, so each player would collect gems for themselves.
But are gems synced? So if another player takes away the gem,
No.
come on, that would be so awesome.
Yeah.
And make you could see your other player cursor. You know,
That's
strategic
just
options.
really networking wise really hard to
Is it
synchronize.
really? Come on.
If it's very quick actions,
Like rotations and whatnot are synced through network. Why can't you sync to the cursor moment?
There is always a lag in the network synchronization.
Yeah, of course, but for this simple game,
it would be unplayable on mobile, for example.
No.
The lag would be too much on mobile, for example. I mean, a player would see that he
no,
collected the gem.
I'm 100% sure it's doable. Come on, you can do 3D games network in virtual reality, and that's like massive resource hog. And I think it's totally doable.
That's again a question of game design. Can you design it somehow to become doable? Because just having like two cursors moving around, collecting them at the same time, well, the delay of network communication is in worst case about a second almost. So you can use faster ports, but you can't make it to zero. It will be something and but maybe you can do it somehow differently. To not
Even if the delay is very short, it's kind of makes the interface way running into it. Something like something happens before cursor moves or vice versa.
Yeah, well, what you can do is that you can maybe show where the gems are starting to appear, and then pretty much both players have some reaction time that's before they are able to slice it, and then you simply like you let the delay in, and then based on what was the delay for each player, how much it would take them to slice this, you decide who's the winner and who gets the coin. You can do something like that, but poorly making it synchronized, the mouse movement in real time, it isn't possible.
I'm not quite sure about that.
I would make it like you have two colors of gems. You always have, let's say, red and the other players have blue. You can pick the other player's gems, but you see when the other player does it.
So you can see if the other player is collecting resources or building something.
Yeah. So you can see they're collecting gems. Your gems are like there as well, but they're different colors than you are collecting.
Okay.
So it will be a competition on this tiny little square there, but it's like this global thing, how many what units you build and how you actually run with that.
Well, the question is what is the added benefit for a gameplay by showing the other player's game in this case?
Immersion, that you see that there's another player there and what this guy is doing.
Oh, what is doing? All right.
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
And what kind of
You can definitely show a replay of your characters, so the other player has some delay, but
yeah,
it's
replay
replay.
doesn't matter.
Yeah. What you wanted to say?
well, if you have like choice of collecting resources or building something, and you see other player doing something differently than you can like make strategies or whatnot. You can like currently you have like 3 choices to collect something: make a small guy, make a big guy. So this is already something that another player can follow and maybe counter, but of course currently you don't have like character counters, like I think so.
Character counters?
Well, for example, bowmen against like certain type of enemies and shielded guys with shields against like bowmen or something.
Yeah, but you can see the enemies of the other player's character from the view.
Yeah, but let's say that building something you can see already takes time. It starts to climb and then it pops up. So, as for example, I see that big guy that he started to make a big guy, so I will make like 3 small guys that counter the big guy instead.
Yeah, or like if you was going to remove like half the buttons there because you would interact with them, then you would see the big guy appear, and then you have to quickly make the little guys up.
Yeah, but if it's Dark 4, I mean,
It doesn't matter, but yes. So I don't think you need like some counters somewhere that show that the opponent has this kind of function.
Usually such games are made completely deterministic, so you can send only the player's actions to over the network, and everything else is played as a recording and timed. And that's why all those type of games have those delays for building characters as well. So they could be actually use some very basic like WebSocket network behind it or something.
It will get desynced if you just use your Unity components. You have to, if you want to make it deterministic, you have to make like the call to the game logic be a single method that then all your data is in there, so you can't use any mono behaviors in your logic that you want to have deterministic, because you can't guarantee the order in which they are executed, like the same components.
Yeah, you have to definitely write a clever architecture, but that's, I just want to...
The time between frames.
I just wanted to tell that for example, some very popular recent games like the Battle Royale, not Battle Royale, what is Clash of Clans, what is the Clash of Royale? Clash of...
No, tiny Clash of Clans.
Royale.
Okay, yeah, but second game.
Yeah. So this is for those kind of games that they are using this technique that only the actions are sent over internet and everything else is deterministic.
But then I also got the improvements with initially doing some villagers that go chop down the trees, and you can build big access to actually monitor channels and change of different progression.
Yeah, for example, you can put some villagers, if you told that underneath there is a mine where the gems appear, you can make some villagers who are like moving on a separate lane on the bottom and starting to collect those gems for you.
That would take the interaction away from the player of collecting resources. It's just building more units.
Well, initially it has to be interactive. Maybe later you can also speed up the process by interacting yourself, but you can like have some economic advantage over your opponent this way.
But you could like, let's say, if you chop down those trees, then you got a pickaxe that mines 20 gems before it breaks. So you can catch the gem 20 times, and then you have to build another pickaxe with villagers chopping down the trees. And that the villagers are a boss now. So this gives you a little bit more variation in that. Because that's what you're going to do.
Perhaps.
But yeah, the automation part is something that you have to decide if you want this.
There is actually a game kind of like this already. It's a StarCraft 2 mod or arcade game. If anyone has heard Star Duel, I think. It's kind of the same thing. They're also a tug of war game where the player plays a bejeweled game for resources. So
we don't know much about games there, so
Yeah.
the games is
If you want to make it more intense, then you could make the units like microable, so you can specifically like order them around. They like spawn and they like meat, but you can change their order, for example.
I was thinking that right now it's collecting resource or building something, but I was thinking of a third interaction where the player can not exactly control the units, but something like hover over them to give them a blessing. So the player gives the unit their blessing and is doing nothing else. So it gets stronger or something.
Yeah. Pretty interesting thing.
It sounds like you have already gotten many people very passionate about it. Seems to be like.
I think I will be working on this thing for the foreseeable future. Add more units and.
Hovering instead of clicking. It seems that clicking would be more like
Rageful.
I don't have any clicks in this game.
So it's like interesting way to make something totally different and frustrating.
But maybe there's a reason no one has done it because it's not.
Yeah, and that's also fun. Did you know that there is game where your whole keyboard is a controller like every part of it. So you have like screen, and you have to walk from one screen to another, and you go like that.
Oh, you mean a typing game?
No, it's not the typing game. It's like real, like movement and platformers and stuff. Basically.
You know, there is this one game where like you jump on platforms and then you like roll suddenly flip around. It's very
Oh, yeah.
frustrating.
That's so much fun.
But yeah, no, living is really interesting twist.
You basically described every roguelike game out there. So you have a screen and you have to get somewhere and all keyboard buttons are bound to something else.
Well, yeah, but no, it's different because we are related to certain objects, but your game screen is very moved with buttons. So, I mean, sorry if I can.
Yeah, it's roguelike.
No, it's not. You move with the keys.
Yeah.
You don't open the screens with the keys. Like different. Ah, keys. Oh yeah. Okay.
If you want to add some frustration, you can add the units non-controllable and moving täiesti randomly.
I think I'm gonna leave it a no-click game because that's where the idea started.
But have you played also
What?
the rhythm game where you have to draw like certain shapes with your mouse? Maybe on the when you work gems you can like do certain shapes.
Patterns. I've seen it.
Make the guys weird and make them all have like at least 500 liters of bloods. People would buy it.
It's all gonna be programmer art, so.
So pixelated plus. Voxel blood.
Now pictures of tomato sauce.
So, any other questions? Suggestions?
Yes, come and show us your game experience.
If you need some help, then ask.
Yeah, but
You have people in the book like play and you could have been somewhere and give it back.
yeah. But first, it's gonna need some more units.
Maybe we can find somebody who can do some pixel art.
Mhm.